Keep your hands and head inside the vehicle at all times. Buckle your seatbelts, check your mirrors, sit on back and relax. It's lights out and away we go for the Tall and Short of It podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to another Tall and Short of It Race Companion episode, coming to you live from the puddle on the side of the road. I'm Aaron, and welcome back for another episode. Justin, good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you too. That was a great intro.
I tried. That was my first one shot. So
very pleased. That was great. We're kind of taking a look at the cars getting a start on the out on the grid. I think we're pre-formation lap right now.
Yep.
But we're pretty close to getting into it. Interesting thing about the grid here for Sunday's race is a bunch of out of position cars. There was a bunch of shenanigans during, I guess, even practice sessions and qualifying that has led to some cars being out of position, penalties being applied post qualifying classification.
Yeah, along with the rainy weather that we had mid qualifying yesterday that threw things off, we ended up seeing Charles Leclerc as well as Sergio Perez getting knocked out in Q2, not making it because they opted not to go on to the slick tires quick enough and didn't get a good enough lap down. Ferrari kind of frustrating Leclerc there again with the strategy decision. He asked for the slick tires. They said no, do inters first, and by the time they switched over, it was just too late for him to get a good lap in. So starting down in P11 and P12, but like you said, a number of penalties. We saw Lance Stroll get a 3-place penalty, I believe, from the practice session. Carlos Sainz got a 3-place grid penalty for blocking Pierre Gasly, which ended up knocking him out in Q1. And then Nico Hulkenberg with a impeding penalty as well. It's kind of weird that we've had the number of impeding penalties this year as we've had. That's, I think, Carlos Sainz's third or fourth this season that he's gotten flagged for. So definitely frustrating from Ferrari's pit wall that they have continued to have that issue.
Yeah, it feels like, and while highlighting Ferrari, there have been a couple other instances of it happening where
Yuki
you see
did a bit. Yeah,
crowding at the last couple turns, trying to get good runs going. And what it feels like is these teams behaving as though they're the only ones on the grid, the only ones running some kind of plan, and then it just ends up hampering other teams and other drivers. And not only that, it's kind of dangerous too. So especially in the wet conditions, visibility is pretty low with all the spray. It just compounds those issues. So very frustrating to see that out of the Ferraris.
Yeah, but we also do see and the stewards have been, it's not like they're just throwing them out willy-nilly either. They've been kind of discerning about it. Yesterday we had the instance where Lewis was going around the hairpin. He had told the team he was having trouble seeing in his mirrors, that I don't know if they were covered with water too much or fogged up or what exactly, but telling them he couldn't see, and then ended up with Lance Stroll kind of almost making contact because Lewis didn't realize he was coming through. But they did look at that and determine no penalty was needed, which I think is the right call there. I wouldn't have been shocked to see one, but I think they've done well to discern. But we're on the grid. Lights are coming on. And here we go. And Max got a good start. And so did Lewis. Lewis had a great start there.
Gets ahead of Fernando. That started P2. George Russell still in the hunt as well. He's looking for Fernando as well. Oh, wow. This is looking really rough for the Aston Martin, right in the early stages.
Yeah, Fernando is hanging in there, though, and kept third ahead of George. So a very clean start.
We see the two McLarens running well. We see the Haas keeping the position, which one may have had doubts.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But I mean, still good spot. Yeah, or hot by the by the Alpine of Ocon. Yep. You.
Gotcha. We see Ferrari looking to get around Sergio Perez. Little battle here going on. Looks like he does get that move done going into a little chicane. Oh, into the
Signs
bump.
goes.
Sergio
Oh, and because of the curb, Sergio gets the cutback.
gets it
Wow.
back. It stays in position. That was
But
really nice.
Signs is on the
Coming
medium
back at him again.
tires and Checo's on the hard. So Checo holds the
Okay.
position, but that's going to be a battle. The Ferrari looks like it has good pace with Signs.
Well, and doesn't this kind of look like a little bit of a cork in the bottle situation with Sergio Perez here on those slower tires? There you go. The
I
Ferrari gets by. Oh,
Ooh, Magnussen
pushes
just
the Haas
got.
off.
That's all right. I
It's
That's
shenanigans
tough.
with Sergio Perez here.
But I don't know if that was. I think Magnussen should have backed out. I think he tried to send it a little too hard. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Um, but fortunately, yeah, he made it through. No damage and still clean first lap and a lot of good battles on track right now. This is a fast lap circuit, so we'll be cruising through as we get up to the 70 laps, and it's going to be interesting seeing with the tire strategies. We see people on the hard tires, the mediums, Gasly on the soft tires, having picked up a few places already. But the pit windows are going to be interesting because slotting back in when there's not so many spaces, you were talking about it with qualifying, having cars kind of bunched up. It's going to be hard to find a gap where you can drive in some clean air.
Yeah, and it seems like based on like some of the early data before the race, it seems like a lot of teams may be going for a one stop. Like you see a lot of the medium runners likely try and push them, kind of early to mid game, and then swap to the hards to finish out the race. However, here's the interesting wrinkle about the tire strategy that the analyst Sam Collins pointed out. Because of a bunch of the wet running in practice and qualifying, there's the interesting wrinkle where a bunch of these teams have soft tires, a bunch of soft tires in reserve. So we may see a bunch of like late stage dive into the pits for like a second or third stop using those soft tires to try and steal some fastest lap. So I think that'll be kind of interesting to see in the kind of late game here. Wicked
Sorry.
start from Max. He was just gone.
Yeah, he got out
Is that what you
so
were looking at?
cleanly. Well, I was watching that, and I was also I accidentally switched my to the. I didn't realize I keep going to the normal F1 TV stream instead of the international one. So I clicked the international one and was trying to like recalibrate the timing.
Gotcha. No worries. Looking at some of the timing here, just like who's doing quickest. Alonso currently has the fastest lap time there in P3. So depending on what happens, he may be able to jump some spots. Although Hamilton looks really strong in the third sector, which is effectively just a straight line. So that's actually going to be interesting for the race.
Yeah, it definitely is, but Alonso's hanging right inside that DRS zone where George Russell has fallen out of that just a little bit. So if Alonso can keep his tires in good conditions, maybe as tires are going later towards that pit window, he might be able to come back at Lewis a little bit there.
Yeah, I'm curious looking at the standings here. We have both of the McLarens in P7, P8. Based on the season that they've had, do you think they're racing each other today, or do you think they're sticking those slots, trying to match pace with each other and just running together? Do you think we'll see the McLarens battle at all?
I think we will. No, I don't think they'll battle. We might end up seeing some team orders and whatnot, depending on who looks like they have better pace. But I think they'll stick together. Just getting as many points as they can is what the team's looking for. In particular, with Gasly still being out of the points right now in the other Alpine, they might be able to make up a little bit of space on Ocon and Alpine there ahead of them in the constructors. Just chip away at it a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned Ocon, great start from him. Really, really nice qualifying as well. To put himself up there at the top of the board. Looks like Hulkenberg in the Haas right behind him isn't really dropping back at all either. So that's pretty solid for the Haas team and the Alpine squad who was struggling previously.
Yeah, they I mean, the Haas team, like, being able to get any points is going to be a good day for them. I am really interested to see kind of how Hulkenberg shifts throughout the race, because we talked about it a bit, and now we have Leclerc looking to put a move on Lando as we're coming through. I think I may have jumped around a little bit on you on the stream, but yeah,
What lap are you on? Lap 6?
still lap 6. Yeah, I think we're just a few seconds off kilter, but anyway, with Hulkenberg, I've talked about how he has consistently been ahead of Magnussen in terms of qualifying pace and everything, but that he has finished behind Magnussen, I think, 4 times, to where he's beaten Magnussen 3 times in races. So the fact that there was a huge gap between the two of them this time, I'm curious to see if he falls all the way back to Magnussen, or if he's able to still keep it up there in the points for a good ways. Because I don't think he'll have too much pressure from the McLarens. It'll just be if those Ferraris or the Red Bull of Perez are able to kind of push up through.
And now, how good do you think the Red Bull package is for Perez? Like, really rough qualifying, rough starting position, considering how good the Red Bull has been. How easy do you think it is going to be for Perez to gain spots here?
I think it's just gonna all be based on the pit strategy. So Max saying that the tires he thinks are gonna be having more degradation than they did in FP2, probably due to the rain washing away some of that rubbered in spots. But with the Red Bull package, I think that Checo will, pick up most of his places during the pit stops. He's going to end up having a lot of the medium runners ahead of him stop earlier, and hopefully he can keep up. And yellow flag popping up in Sector 2. Logan Sargent.
Something went awry here.
So Logan Sargent's car, he got a critical error, so he'll probably be stopping the car. We'll see.
Oh, looks like Piastri was able to hop the Haas. Looks like Norris is attempting it.
Yeah, almost had it, but not quite able to. Virtual
I think
safety
giving
car.
another DRS zone or two. But yeah, with a virtual safety car, probably negates that overtaking opportunity, because they're all pulling into that sector. Oh, it's just like a parking lot now.
Yeah, they move so slow. Oh, that's tough. I mean, Logan Sargent can't, like, he's not having great drives this year, and then he's also having mechanical failure. He's just having a rough go of it here in his first F1 season.
Give it to, I mean, if you're Albon in the storyline, oh, this is just great for you. You are looking like, the world's best teammate right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're just winning the what would you actually say? You're just winning the driver head.
Well, he's the
obscenely.
only driver that has a 100% like head-to-head win ratio, at least for qualifying. I think it was 8-0 after this past week. And there's only one race that Sargent, I think, ended up ahead of him, I believe. So
Gotcha.
But the virtual safety car is going to be ending here and they'll be back to full speed DRS open with Leclerc behind Lando Norris here. Just doesn't quite have it.
I'm hoping that the second McLaren is going to be able to hop that Haas that's in front of him. Piastri was able to do it, and especially talking about driver head-to-head battles. This is going to be an interesting one for Piastri. If he ends up finishing ahead of Norris, depending on what the pit strategies look like. But yeah, it'd be huge for Norris and Piastri here for McLaren to be running as a team. Hulkenberg is doing pretty well in the fight though.
Yeah, they definitely are able to keep it in the straights ahead. Lando's going to have to really be able to tuck in there before he gets a good opportunity to pass with the DRS. But Hulkenberg, yeah, he's hanging there for now. And along with Albon is still 7/10 up on the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. He is not giving up that position easily either, which I'm happy to see that Albon's having another nice day after a really impressive qualifying decision from Williams. I mean, they had nothing to lose in Q2 to say, let's throw on the slicks and give it a shot. Worst case scenario, he spins out and they have to rebuild the car or whatnot, but it worked out really well and got them into Q3 yesterday. So a kind of reverse of Ferrari's decision. They made the right call at the right time.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where from just like really heads up from the driver to understand the track conditions, help the pit wall make the right decision, and then when it is such kind of like a coin flip moment, if you will, you just kind of look like a god as Albon to like make that like quick decision and then go top of the timetable as well, because you just like found that little window. Props to him.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. It's funny, I didn't give the most props to the actual decision making from Williams, because I look at it and I'm like, they've got to look at it like, oh, what is there to lose? We are the slowest car in this field of 15. Like, this is our best shot at a Q3. So it makes sense to take the risky move from them. But for Albon to actually go and put in the laps, that's where, it does turn from just like, like low risk, high reward call to to something that just worked out really well.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that as well. I think if you look at it from like, it would be in every team's best interest to make that swap to go like to get to the top of the table. But from like a risk reward perspective, you're right. Not all of the teams had to go for a move like that. But yeah, kudos to Albon for being able to hook the lap up.
Oh, absolutely.
We're seeing here, back to the race, we're seeing here on lap 11, couple of pit timings coming in. We see De Vries, Stroll, Hulkenberg, all looking for their pit timings here.
Yeah, well, and from Hulkenberg, he's now the bottleneck, because from him down to P17 P16, there's a DRS train, and Max thinks he hit a bird.
Oof.
Hopefully, no issues to the car. Oh, and Lando tries. Oh, and Hulkenberg coming into the pits. So now it's going to be tough. Luckily, Lando has that DRS. That's interesting. Leclerc must have lifted on the during the straight, because his DRS shut, and then he had to reopen it for the rest of the straight. So if he had kept that open the whole way, he may have had a good shot. But I think this is going to turn into a plan B strategy, a two-stopper for a lot of teams. Seeing now 3 different drivers pitting. We had and Russell's going to be out. His right rear is done.
Oh. A little
Yep.
bit of a puncture.
Full safety
Did
car.
he make contact?
Yeah, he hit the barrier hard.
Ooh.
Oh man. So Max coming in free. Perfect. That's the perfect timing. The safety car came out. Red Bull still coming through, has the opportunity to pit. Like that
Relax, brother.
No,
You gotta hide your Red Bull fandom.
Hey,
You're
I'm
like perfect for Max.
No, I mean it's perfect like for really the whole top of the grid though. Like all
Sure.
of them were
Hamilton,
still
Alonso, Ocon, Piastri, they all get to come in for the pit, save their position.
Oh
Ooh, a little bit of
man.
shenanigans here.
Well, and that's because Mercedes ended up with a 3.2-second stop, 2.3 for Aston, so they picked up a second. Fernando was not happy. They could have
a little bit
leapfrogged
of
there.
blocking in the pits.
But I mean, it could have so easily gone poorly if that safety car came out half a lap later. Then all of those top drivers are now all of a sudden going to be more bunched up for that pit window. So, and yeah, just hit the curb a little bit and yeah.
Rear steps out on him and hits the wall on the right side.
Man,
Yikes.
yeah, that he is done. Oh, he's out.
Yeah, some pretty serious contact.
Yeah. The broadcast was just saying that not sure if yeah, that might be an unsafe release. That's close, but I don't think they'll penalize it. It was just enough, but it was very close.
I don't know. It seems to me like Alonso had like speed in that scenario.
Oh, I agree.
That's tough.
Is George actually going to be able to continue? I'd be shocked if his rear suspension wasn't done.
Looks like
no. They're sending him.
Wait, looks like fans are.
Yeah, they were using the brake fans.
That looked like a very like uninspired stop. Are we gonna see some Yuki Tsunoda shenanigans where they send him back out?
I think we could, because it was a really slow stop because he did have to change the front wing too, because that was really that ended up hitting after the rear hit. So it was going to be a slow stop normally, but the amount or how hard he hit that. Ooh. That's probably going to get called for an unsafe release on Lando.
Yeah, that's really bad.
Yeah, and those are team decisions, just like sending them.
Well, that's
the drivers can't really know, so that's just a tough spot to put them in. Yeah, Albon definitely had to back off in that position, but we saw both Ferraris and the Red Bull of Sergio Perez stay out. Magnussen jumping way up, getting through there. I don't think he is pitted yet, and I think Bottas stayed out as well. So yeah, from P4 to P9 or 8, I guess that is, have not pitted. George on the radio. George is saying the car's okay. That blows my mind. Me too. That looked like if this was IndyCar and a car hit the wall that hard, I'd be like, okay, like that car's a tank. That's fine. I am shocked that his suspension is not destroyed from how hard he hit that.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, I mean, let's see what he can do. This will be an interesting one.
Lewis asking where the damage came from, and they're like, "Yep, that is from George."
Okay, so Hamilton has some damage now as
No,
well.
no, he was asking what the debris and everything on the track, where like what happened or where it came from, and they're like,
Gotcha.
"Yep, that's from George."
Gotcha. Okay, I was gonna say I didn't see contact with Lewis. 50 years
No,
since
no,
safety car was introduced.
yeah, Lewis,
Wow, that's
Lewis starts.
awesome.
That is cool that it's been that they have like had that as a safety measure for that long. 50 years is a long time. I mean, that's the 70s, yeah, 73.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
What were you saying? I cut you off there.
oh, just about Lewis. Like I think he has done a really nice job putting himself in a good position and everything for the race, and especially seeing George have a little bit of trouble with the car, whether that's driver error or something felt funky. Lewis, with that great start to get up to P2, being able to keep that lead through the pit stops, even with the little shenanigans, that's a great position for him to be in. But I do think that, especially with the early safety car, we're going to end up with a two-stopper for a number of teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. This is gonna be vintage Lewis and Max, bunch of restarts. Let's hope for a good one.
Yeah, and after a couple of races with very minimal incidents and to none at all, we've now had Logan Sargent go out with the power unit issue. George hitting the wall. So a couple of safety cars. Fortunately, no red flags and a sunny day. I want to give a shout out. My buddy Jeff is there. This is his second year going up to the race
Whoa.
at the Canadian Grand Prix. And so he was saying yesterday that 4 of his 5 days, because of the rain last year, had been rain when he'd gone to the Canadian Grand Prix. So now he's 4 for 6. So two sunny days since he's been up there going for the past couple of years.
And on I would argue on the day that it matters, on race day, that's pretty sweet.
100%. So definitely a nice day for him up there. So and I think now we're looking at Checo's start here. He
Gets away decent.
got past signs there and everything. So
This replay coming in right as the safety cars coming in this lap, so we'll get the first race restart here. Man,
yeah.
Checo battling against that Ferrari, just hunting for every opportunity, and then hairpin comes in. Sergio really makes the move stick.
Yeah,
But
well, and Sainz hitting
down the straight.
just a little too much curb that he took on that first one, but he got it cleanly the second time making that pass.
So here we go. Max coming around the hairpin. Bunch of the cars following him behind him. Coming down I guess this is the back straight that we're looking at, and then there's another one. There's like another one that rolls into the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is the pit straight here. I have no clue what I'm talking
No.
about, obviously.
No, I think you're right. I think this is the back straight. The Max let the safety car go, and so now he's weaving, getting some tires going, and looking for once they go around that last hairpin.
Man, he
I think.
is really, really slowing him
But
down.
great getaway from him. You saw the back
Doing it on
wiggle
the
from
chicane.
Yeah. So he I think already broke the toe pretty well.
But you're saying timed it when Lewis was still doing his tire heat up.
And
Lewis
just with the
is way
chicane,
behind
like
now.
not wanting anyone to be able to get a good just flat out run from behind him. So clean getaway from Max there. He's already broken the DRS distance. But Alonso right there, 0.6 off Hamilton, looking to stay on his tail. And then we have the two medium tire Ferraris still running, so we'll see if those tires still have any pace to kind of get past the fresh hard tires ahead of them.
Yeah, I think the missing of the early pit window there on the safety car may turn out to be pretty rough for the Ferraris. We'll see, because that'll be a little bit of position to gain there for the McLarens, and depending on what that pace is, you're right. This could be pretty hairy for coming in for the Ferraris here on the compound difference that we have going on. Now we have race control noting the unsafe release for the Lando Norris and the McLaren here.
Yeah, and Max just set the fastest lap, but Lando and Piastri really going after it. Lando, with the safety car and all, ended up becoming the lead McLaren there, but the two of them are still definitely getting a little racy.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to track how high these McLarens can stay, because they've obviously kind of been on our radar as a team that we want to see doing better, but have just been marred with kind of like development issues and like reliability issues, I guess you could say as well. I think both of the drivers performing as best they can, but sometimes the package not that great. So here on a weekend, we see them, having good qualifying, no real like issues to speak of. Oh, we actually see on the replay getting pretty close here, but
Yeah, that was
giving each
Lando
other room.
passing Piastri. I thought he had got him on the safety car, but no, Lando sent it really on him and made the move. Made the move work.
Yeah, that was really clean. So it seems that McLaren says, yeah, you boys can go race. That's really cool. Happy to see them, respecting each other on the track, but definitely giving it their all. So that's pretty fun to see from the McLarens, because obviously Norris and Piastri are just some very fun drivers to follow. So it's nice when they have the car to be able to perform.
Yeah, and I think kind of the big thing that to keep an eye on here that's gonna help/slash hurt them is if there are any other incidents. Oh, and Leclerc just going a little deep, locking up with that front right a little bit, but yeah, seeing if there's any other incidents that bring out a virtual safety car or a safety car, because we had the Leclerc and Sainz the Ferraris hold off on pitting. We had Perez hold off on pitting, Magnussen and Bottas. So if they get cheap pit stops, they could still hang up there with the field being pretty tight. But if they have to just take their standard pit stops, they'll have to fight their way back through the McLarens. We could see them jump up back into that like P6, P7 kind of spot, if not maybe a little higher with where they're at right now.
Oh yeah, that's a great point as well. Yeah, it seems like a pretty interesting race that we have shaken out with the early safety car. Seems like a couple of different tire strategies active. Bunch of cars on the hards right now, but I think we're gonna see some things shake up. We see Alonso in the Aston Martin just setting the fastest lap, which is pretty exciting behind Lewis Hamilton. It looks like he's about, I guess, like
We're about a second back, like 0. 0.9, 0.8, somewhere in there.
so we can keep it in the DRS range. Look for an overtake opportunity.
Yeah, and we also saw Alex Albon get the we had Piastri lock up a little bit, go through the runoff area, and Alex Albon picks up the position. So Albon also could work out or get something to work out really well with these other drivers having to pit. Ocon picking up Magnussen and Bottas in the last two laps as well. So Esteban having a really, really good race, and he very quickly could end up back up in P4 with the pit stops for the Ferraris and Perez.
Yeah, and I think those two overtakes symptomatic of Magnussen and Bottas being on their old hard tires currently still, but making the strategy work for him, getting the overtakes done now before he gets stuck behind some slow pace cars. Now we're on an onboard with Lando Norris. Looks like he's battling with
That's a Haas
Magnussen there.
Yep. and just gets past him. A great move.
That was a nice little bunch up there. There was a couple cars involved.
And good on Magnussen for giving him the space to let him there, like, through, or let him have the room he deserved coming through, without any sort of contact or anything. That's not always the easiest to do, but Alex Albon, so Magnussen on the old hard tires. Alex Albon now looking to make a move on him as well, probably as we get into one of the next DRS zones. So Alex will be back up into the points, which is huge, and he'll have that blocker to Piastri a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. These what are going to end up being little DRS trains. It's going to be the life of your tires that's going to give you the advantage. Albon takes a look around the Haas of Kevin Magnussen here on the one DRS zone. Maybe he'll take another look here, flap open. But yeah, bunch of cars running very very close together here.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the restart ended up just pretty clean overall. It just easy, other than these pit stops that are being reviewed and everything. It's not been too bad. And of
look
course,
at this picture of Alonso. Oh my gosh, Hamilton's getting really big in that viewfinder.
Oh yeah, he is. As they're getting into the braking zones, right there on him, and I think we may see in the next lap or so, as we switch over to the full screen of Fernando. Oh, and Fernando sends it. Let's go, Fernando. That's awesome. Nice move.
Damn,
and he's
right
got the
into
DRS.
The chicane. Beautiful.
Lewis with the slipstream, really trying to go after him, but no DRS, so Lewis loses out there. But they, I think, are going to battle a couple more times before we see the end of the race. We'll have Lewis getting DRS as soon as we hit the next zone. So
yeah, and it doesn't seem like he's fallen too far back behind that Aston Martin. Looks like only about 7/10, so he's sticking right in that DRS zone. And you're right, this may be a battle that we see raging for the next 50 laps or so.
Yeah, and
wow, nice move there from Fernando. Really clean.
And then we get Albon with no DRS. He went off the yep. So Albon, and he loses to Piastri. So loses out the position that he had gained from Piastri doing the same thing. But right now, Fernando is the fastest man on track. He's 2.8 back from Max, fastest lap in hand, and just went past Lewis pretty quickly. So we'll see if he can. We'll see if maybe Max is holding any pace back, or if we'll start to see Fernando creep up on him there. Give some excitement for that lead position, since we haven't seen Max since the restart. So
yeah, and even just like in the like the conversation of the season, this is very stock and standard for what we expect. Just eliminate the top position. That's out of here. So Alonso is in the top possible position that we have right now.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Lance Stroll just not having the best day. He's stuck in this giant DRS train that we may see Yuki Tsunoda actually make a little bit of a move here, because he's on fresh hard tires behind Alex Albon, and unless that is incorrect on the timing screen, which it might be, but that DRS train from Valtteri in P8 just to I guess really from Magnussen in P10 all the way back to P19, there's a DRS train. That's insane. So Magnussen just the bottleneck there ahead of Piastri. who makes the move, gets there. So
Nice.
both
Really good
McLarens,
opportunity found.
yep, making their way back up. Uh, Lando
Looks like
not far off
Albon's here trying to
Valtteri
pick up
either.
the scraps, right?
I think he might because it seems like Magnussen just doesn't quite have the pace. So I think Albon may still get him. The Williams generally had pretty good straight line speed, and so having a couple of these DRS zones, he may still pick up that position. But I think Magnussen will kind of continue to be the bottleneck as we go down. But yeah, Alex Albon less than half a second behind. He might be able to grab him.
But you're right. I think that would, kind of loop him back a little bit. I think that gives Tsunoda, that opportunity that you were talking about. He's only a couple tenths back then, half a second back from Albon. So yeah, could be some positions to find here if Magnussen maybe makes a mistake or some kind of error happens here.
Yeah, which could easily happen. And Piastri is still not breaking away from Magnussen entirely. He's kind of leading that DRS train now as well. But yeah, Alex Albon here, right on the Haas. He might into this longer DRS zone coming up have that opportunity here on the main straight.
Yeah, and it's interesting here. Well, it feels like some of these hard runners that we're talking about being, in a position to be overtaken, they're kind of on the back foot defending here. It seems like, I mean, we're just going to see them on the hard tires forever. It seems like they're kind of locked in, maybe not able to play as excuse me, as progressive of a plan. Thank you. As a fan of the team may hope, but yeah, seems like they're just kind of holding station, kind of defending, and then it will be on the likes of the Albons or the attackers to get the advantage here. The one driver that I have been kind of paying attention to, Valtteri Bottas, has kind of been speeding up a little bit ahead of that McLaren. Just recently, he set his best lap time, so I think he's kind of warming up into the race, sitting comfortably P8. I think this is probably one of like the most alive we've seen this AlphaTauri squad, usually sitting out of the points, where maybe we see decent drives, comfortable drives, but usually uninspired. Valtteri up 6 overall here on the day, so I think that's pretty impressive here for Alfa Romeo. Obviously, still has to take a base. He's going to have to go get some new tires on, but yeah, I think overall driving a pretty good race.
Yeah, he definitely is, and when we get his pit stop, he'll definitely have fresher tires for much longer. I mean, we're going to be seeing with the top of the grid having pitted so early for those hard tires, like we still could see a two-stop strategy. We might just see the top hang on to those hard tires and make them last. We're seeing that at least with like Sergio Perez, he is hanging on to those hard tires from the beginning for a decent length now, getting to the 28 laps. But both Ferraris with the medium tires have had those on 28 laps as well, so they'll have fresh rubber towards the end of the race.
Yeah, we heard Carlos Sainz on the radio thinking he has a little more pace over the over his teammate Charles Leclerc sitting ahead of him. Looking at the timings, Leclerc has the lap time by about a tenth. So from the seat of that Ferrari, feels a little faster than he actually is. But yeah, right now Ferrari's comfortably up in that 4-5 position, not really being threatened by anybody behind, but also it doesn't seem like making too much time up on the Mercedes, and looking like they do still have to take a pit stop. What they currently have going on is not going to be their final position here.
Yeah, and Max coming over the radio to say that he doesn't have much grip on the hard tire, so he doesn't have much grip, but he's still putting a gap in on the oh, okay, a yellow flag for a split second, but with Albon passing Magnussen there, getting up into 11th. He finally got that position back and can kind of chase after Piastri and Norris.
Yeah, we see a pretty large gap there in between the McLaren and the Williams, but great overtake there by Alex Albon to progress his race forward and make sure he doesn't waste any more time stuck behind that Haas.
Sorry,
Switch red. Looking at the Carlos Sainz radio.
Yeah, I was caught out. So they were telling him to switch red, which I think it sounds like is his like push lap for before coming in, because he said, no, I'm comfortable with mode X. I want to stay out, not box yet. And they're like, okay. So
Gotcha. We're getting a replay here. Lance Stroll looks like he may have been edged into the pits maybe just a little bit early, or that was a planned stop, but it got pretty close to the car that was ahead of him.
Yeah, I think it was planned. But it I think is a good call, because now Lance, he's already picked up over a full second in the last 2 laps, gaining on George Russell, who's there at the back of that DRS train. So if Stroll can get his Aston Martin caught up to the back of the pack, I do think a lot of those drivers will still pit again, and I think he could pick up a lot of places there and end up towards the points if he can hang on to those tires for the rest of the race. I do have a feeling that the top of the grid are just going to have to pit again. Leclerc, Sainz, and Perez are probably going to be the only some of the only one stoppers, maybe Bottas in there as well. But yeah, Max talking about the grip of the tires as well, but since the last message that I mentioned, he has pulled out 7/10 more on Alonso. So he's like, I have no grip, but he's just putting in faster laps than everyone else on the track at the moment.
The answer back from the pit wall was pretty funny, saying, yeah, Max, we got that message. Thanks. Just keep doing your job.
Double text, man. Double text.
Yeah.
Like oh, that's funny. But I think that, like, GP, Max's, like, I forget what it would be, like, pit manager or the head of his pit wall.
Race engineer.
There we go. Could not think of it. But they have such a funny relationship listening to the radio messages. Max is always so fired up, and GP just like does not ever get like real worked up. He just keeps it calm, cool, like even tone, even when Max is really giving him a hard time. So a good guy to have there to keep everything kind of even keeled.
Well, it's a very interesting, like, you're very in sync with each other, but the one is in, you could call it a pretty violent environment for, a very large chunk of time. But in contrast, the person on the other end of the phone they're just sitting on a chair watching the screen.
Yeah.
So that energy versus calm is just exhibited in just what they're doing, which I
Big
find
time.
to be hilarious. And it's, like you were alluding to, the job of the pit wall to be, to be that calm voice of reason. Because I imagine once the emotions get high, once you maybe start driving with a little bit of rage, maybe a little bit of even disappointment or anything, even excitement, thinking like it's already won. I think there's a sense in which you need somebody there that's like, this is just the thing that's happening. Keep it moving no matter what.
Yeah, and I think it's good to highlight like the difference in like what their environments are, because it does like give you a little more insight onto like how they're probably feeling as they're having these discussions. It's you're like on very different energy levels 100%.
Right.
So yeah, that does make it kind of amusing to look at. But while we were chit chatting, we did see Nico Hulkenberg go ahead and take his second pit stop there. He's now down in P19, back of the grid. But yet Kevin Magnussen is up there in P12, still has not pitted. And so he may again end up ahead of his teammate, even with a pit stop, if he just is able to hold those hard tires out for a one stopper there.
Yeah, I think that would be quite interesting, actually, being that so many drivers have had to take, very different routes through this race, where we see, some people double stopping, some people have yet to stop. So we'll see how that all shakes out towards the very end, back towards the top of the table. We see Alonso kind of fall back from Verstappen, significant bit, not news, but Hamilton not gaining too much on Alonso. So curious to see what the strategy is there. Does Mercedes think they can progress their race anymore, or if they're holding station until a better opportunity?
Yeah, and the Ferraris both hanging on this long is definitely impressive. I don't think, and a really clean stop from the Alpine for Gasly, but yeah, it's interesting. The medium tires for the Ferraris have been able to hang on a good bit. We're about to hit that halfway point of the race, so the hard tires definitely can last through the end, and we'll see them probably trying to make their way back up through the field. But similarly with Sergio Perez, he is going to be on the medium tires here towards the end, and really might be able to make up some good ground if he can keep these hard tires for maybe 8 to 10 more laps, I would imagine, pitting somewhere around lap like 43, 44.
And you said that for Sergio Perez, correct?
Yeah, so to be able to, for Sergio to have the medium tires for about 25, 26 laps there at the end. But someone just dove into the pits. Yuki Tsunoda hopping in there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, already Sergio Perez has had, I would say, a pretty strong race as compared to his Saturday performance. Ooh, that doesn't look good.
And through goes Russell.
Little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact there was. Oh,
this is going to be contact. Nick DeVries banging wheels with the Haas of Kevin Magnussen. Oh man.
The Haas, yes.
DeVries,
there we go.
They both found reverse, but DeVries really made the poor decision there with sending it on the inside, coming in way too hot, locking up,
blocking Kevin Magnussen from being able to make the turn. They both have to go on to the off-road.
Yeah. And so DeVries
going through the grass.
Yeah, just so
taking the grass route.
Okay, so that wasn't too, I mean, there was a little contact, but I think Kevin went a little too wide there. Took out a little bit of the side floorboard of the AlphaTauri, and then George sneaks through, But then again, with the AlphaTauri getting a slipstream on the next, they both locked up. So they neither one of them wanted to give up the space. Magnussen just
Right.
ended up behind, and they both had contact. But that is that's a veteran move from Magnussen to guarantee that he was going to get out first. Oh, man.
Oh yeah, good call there on that. Okay, gotcha. To realize they were both going out, but make sure he's behind.
Yep, he's like, I'm gonna end up here being able to back out first. And honestly, with Magnussen just having his first pit stop, going on to the mediums, he is in a better position than he necessarily should be after that incident. But yeah, definitely not what either driver was looking for. We now got to see Ocon take his second pit stop and Bottas take his first. So, yeah, Ocon coming out in P10, and Russell back up into the points. So now we're seeing these shake up as some of the drivers take their pit windows. We'll see Leclerc, Sainz, and Perez before too long take their next ones.
I didn't get a good read how much time. I didn't get a good read on how much time they're losing in the pits, but seeing like the wide variance of like how far away people are, it looks like the Ferraris. Let's say they pitted right now. It looks like they would just come out behind behind Sergio and Russell maybe. Or Sergio and Piastri most likely.
Yeah.
But now Perez into the pits now too, so that immediately makes me a liar.
Well, and Piastri came into the pits too, so we really couldn't. I was going to gauge it off of him. Great pit stop from Red Bull. Let's see how the McLarens
2.3
do with Piastri coming in. Very clean too. 2.4. Yeah, I was going to say 2.4, nice. 2.5. But yeah, the Ferrari's still yet to come in, and Alex Albon up there in P6, baby. I love it. Like, that makes me happy to see, because he has been one of the, I think, more underrated drivers this year, just due to the fact that the Williams is a pretty, and Lando getting a penalty, so unsafe release was confirmed there, I guess, for him. But getting back to Alex Albon, he has definitely been, and Carlos Sainz coming into the pits. I picked a bad time to try and talk about this, but Alex Albon,
car 4, unsportsmanlike behavior.
That's Lando. Wait, is that what the penalty was?
Lance Stroll. For car 4, not position 4. I guess it's Lance Stroll.
No,
unsportsmanlike behavior.
No, car 4 is Lando. Lando's number 4. Lance is number 18.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what Lando did there. But either way, Alex Albon's been one of my kind of more underrated drivers so far this year. He's put in really like solid performances for a Williams car that has clearly a lot of development that is needed to get it kind of up to par. But he's still just putting in great drives. He's up there in P6 right now. So big props to him at the moment. And Perez here looking to get by him, but either way, I don't think that's the fight, and Leclerc getting that box call.
Yeah, it does seem like, I mean, this is just part of a really good weekend for Albon and the Williams, just in total as well. But yeah, really converting here on this Sunday. Underrated may be a good word for it. It's likely tough to see a performance like this when there are so many other storylines. Williams not being the most point scoring team, but I mean, yeah, Albon for sure putting on a performance today.
Yeah, he's hanging in there. Checo just got past him, but another interesting point is the Ferraris hanging on to those tires for so long have kept those positions. The field got stretched enough out with I really think with Magnussen holding up the back of the grid so much that it allowed the Ferraris to, by extending that pit window with the medium tires, to gain those positions back. So it'll be interesting to see if Sergio on the medium tires can get caught up to them and make it past them. But Hamilton now in P3 being called into pit.
And for Sergio Perez, I think it'll just be a comment on how good the car is, how good he is here on a weekend like this, being tough qualifying. Was he out? He was out in Q1.
No, Q2.
Q2, gotcha.
P12. Leclerc was P11. He was P12. They, Sergio just, and I'll say this, like, just from what I can recollect, and so if there's any instances that I'm not thinking of, but Checo just doesn't seem like one of the best, like, wet weather drivers. Not that he's, like, bad at it or anything in particular, but there are a number of drivers that I think of performing well in wet weather. I think of Max, Fernando, Lewis. Those are up there. Lando Norris and Alex Albon. Those are the 5 drivers that I think of having, in particular, good wet weather driving performances previously. We had the one instance of Albon in the Williams last year, I think, just hanging on to tires for like an entire race and just like made it up into P10, which we were like blown away by after a really just solid drive overall. But I don't really think of Checo in terms of being one of those like wet weather guys in particular.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Sometimes that's just not your strike, but it's good to see here on the Sunday where you are offered up some some clear weather, a dry track. You're able to kind of convert that position into a better one. We see the fastest lap just being set by Carlos Sainz,
and then shortly thereafter, snatched up by Sergio Perez. So Max being told to box, so they'll probably throw him back onto the mediums for the last stretch of the race here. Maybe we'll see the hard tires. Alonso went onto the hard tires. Hamilton went onto the mediums. So a couple different strategies here as we're getting to the end. We're seeing the medium tires
Max in the
go
pits.
on.
Let's see what the stop's like. 2.3 the average for the day, or do they improve? 2.7, a little bit of a slow stop. All right. Red Bull could definitely improve on that.
Yeah, but it looks like there's about like 17 seconds lost in the pit stop. 17, 18 seconds is what I saw there. But
Gotcha.
But yeah, pretty clean pit stop. They didn't need to do anything like exceptional. They just needed clean, and were able to make that work.
Yeah, and like you were saying, the medium tires going on there. Now, based on what the Ferraris were able to do, so they got 40 laps out of their mediums. It seems like Max will definitely be able to run to the end on these. So that'll end up being a 2-stopper for Max there.
Yeah, but the Ferraris, I think, are gonna be perfectly fine hanging in there. It's gonna be interesting. I think as we get to the end, they're saying on the broadcast with Leclerc is making up a little time with the hard tires on Lewis in the with the medium tires. So
Gotcha.
as we get towards the end of the race, if those hard tires still have some good rubber going, then they may be able to get up past Lewis, and Leclerc might be able to sneak onto the podium there. So that'll be kind of the battle to watch there. Of course, Sergio Perez getting the fastest lap at the moment. and Leclerc being told that Sainz is not going to attack him, that they're going to kind of hold position. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, there's no need to really. I mean, Sainz is 2.5 seconds back from him. He's gaining on Lewis. I feel like that's a weird message. Like, just focus ahead of you.
Well, based on Science wanting to, get team ordered ahead earlier, it stands to reason that that may have been a running conversation on the Ferrari radio, where if Leclerc was worried that Science was going to be on the attack, that wouldn't be too great. So maybe just reassuring for the lead Ferrari driver currently.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. And really for Ferrari, it's the right call. I mean, we may see Russell have to take another pit stop. We may not. He may be good till the end of the race, but obviously that is their fight a little bit in the constructors trying to chase the Aston Martin and the Mercedes squads. So if they can pick up as many points as possible and try and make up some of that ground, that's huge. Lance Stroll, though, just in P12, so not far out of the points, and still a potential to sneak up in there and grab a point here.
Oh, thinking Stroll is going to be able to hop above Norris and Valtteri, you think?
Or if there's like another pit stop from George Russell or any sort of incident, like it's not out of reach for him. Maybe he can leapfrog Norris because I do think the Aston Martin's just a faster car. So if he can get past Lando, and then he maybe could get Valtteri too. Like, I don't think that's an impossible way to get in the points. I do have to give a shout out to Valtteri though. Looking at it now, I mean, he's done his one pit stop. He's on the medium tires, and he's in the points. And he has had a rough season so far. We've seen Joe just kind of outperform him in terms of, I think, our expectations in general. We've seen a couple of races with Valtteri kind of just running in P19, P20, P18 and just not making any sort of waves. And of course, the Alfa Romeo car is not phenomenal, but at the same time, I think the expectation of Valtteri as a driver is higher at this point. So a solid performance from him, similar to kind of how I'm thinking of Albon being up in the points there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to your point about Valtteri having a little bit, yeah, I do believe I agree with you. There is some expectation where he should be able to get some good results, I think, but I'm not sure where I was going. Maybe the car that he had in the Mercedes just kind of allowed him to perform like that, but with the Alfa Romeo, maybe that is just the pace of the vehicle, him getting the best out of it, and that's okay. But you're right here, getting P10 for Valtteri here, up in the points, because I do agree with you. Quite a quiet season from him so far, and this would be like one of the better results. You're muted.
And it is tough because it's like, obviously with having the Mercedes that Valtteri had for years, like it was a very, very good car. And so he should, and he did a more consistent job, I'd say, than we've seen Checo, at least this season, in terms of having a car at the front of the grid and putting it up there in those performances. I mean, Valtteri was consistently P2, P3, like just hanging there. He beat Lewis in some races. We've seen Checo have those highs, but when he's having his low, like Valtteri's lows in that really good Mercedes car was like P3. And we're seeing Checo's lows be a bit further down. So, So yeah, and Lewis taking out some time out of Fernando Alonso. He got another fastest lap there, but yeah, I mean with Checo, I think I expect a bit more from him, but with Valtteri, it's hard to gauge when you switch teams, you're in a new car that is further down in the field. And to be honest, I feel like I hear a lot more about development from other teams than I hear from Alfa Romeo. I feel like I don't get as much of that out in the public ear as much as you hear about like a Williams or an Alpine or some of the other teams. So
Yeah, that's a great point. Do you think that's like symptomatic of the budget they have available, what their what their development plan is? Very close to the wall, says Amazon.
oh yeah,
Very close.
AWS graphics, 11 centimeters. That is about 5 inches there, folks. So,
That's
whew,
defined as very close. That's
very
the
close.
technical term for 11
Centimeters is
whatever centimeters.
yeah. That's very close. I would say might be too close. I don't know.
No, too close is when you're making contact. Anything not making contact, you're just
Very
brave.
close. Or brave. Okay, there we go. Um, but yeah, George Russell here behind Alex Albon. He's making up good ground. So George has worked his way through the field pretty well here after his contact, getting back up and making his way through the points. As it is right now, though, I think we should hopefully see Alex Albon maintain that points position before the end of the race.
Yeah,
And
because
that
even if I mean, it does seem like Russell may be in an overtaking position here. He may have a little bit of work to do, but I'm not sure if Ocon or Valtteri would be able to kind of knock him out of that. I think there would be a lot of work to be done. So yeah, I think currently P7 P8 for Albon is looking pretty good.
Yeah, and so Albon's radio message that came on for him was this is interesting. So Fernando Alonso chasing first place on the hard tires to Max's mediums. I think he's just gonna he slipped back a little bit, but we'll see. But with Albon, his team was telling him that he has the straight line speed, so he should be able to be that bottleneck a little bit for George Russell, at least for a bit, to keep him behind. But
Nice. That's very cool. Then we're getting an onboard here with Yuki Tsunoda. See what's going on. Going down the pit straight. I imagine DRS flap wide open.
oh yeah,
Flies right by that car.
picking up the Haas there. And Justin, I will be right back. I'm gonna grab a drink and hit the restroom.
Sounds good. With Aaron taking a break, we're gonna lead you through the images that we're seeing here for the Canadian Grand Prix. We've got an Aston Martin on cam. I think this is the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. Hamilton 3 seconds behind on the medium tire, but they are doing pretty similar lap times. It seems like Hamilton is like 200ths down on Alonso, so very consistent lap times. I'd be surprised if Hamilton's able to like take a chunk out of that, really, especially with Alonso on the hunt. We just heard him on the radio with his race engineers talking about wanting to be done with the lift and coast, saying that he just like really wants to win the race. Actually, 6.2 seconds behind Max, though, which is he's falling a little further behind. Last time he checked in, like 5.7 seconds or so back. But we may have to see something change here for Alonso if he wants to, catch that gap to Max here. We're just talking about the race here for Alonso chasing Max, about 6 seconds down currently. Fortunately, though, Hamilton doing very similar lap times as Alonso, so like it doesn't seem like he's under threat there.
Yeah, I would say not. But I also don't expect Alonso to necessarily catch Max. He just keeps just drifting back a little bit at a time. Last time we had been discussing this, he was 5.5 seconds back. Now he's 6.2 back. But like you said, at least the Mercedes not really making up a ton of ground on Fernando. But as we get here towards the end, we'll see if the medium tires are hanging on better, or if the hard tires really give Lewis the pace he needs at the end of the race with 18 laps to go here.
Yeah, and we see currently Lewis has the fastest lap time, but that's been being traded back and forth between him and Alonso. So even into these, later stages of the race, these drivers finding more and more pace on the track. But that's obviously as it's kind of rubbering in, bunch more grips being laid down. Drivers are able to find a little more pace lap after lap here. And it seems like Alonso and Hamilton just kind of trading it back and forth currently.
Yeah, Lewis slightly closing the gap, but another little DRS train kind of starting behind Esteban Ocon, or still kind of behind Alex Albon, who's managed to hold off George. Right now, 6 points for P7 for Alex Albon would be huge for the Williams squad. I think that would probably jump them up past the AlphaTauris and Haas's for sure, if they're not already ahead. But yeah, we have Lando Norris also trying to make way a little bit and possibly snatch that point in P10 from Valtteri. So a nice tight little fight there, hanging on behind Alex Albon.
Well, and it's interesting here for Valtteri specifically. It looks like Norris is lapping currently about 0.7 slower than Valtteri. So the pace difference on the medium to the hard tire there from the McLaren and the Alfa Romeo is sticking clear, and Valtteri definitely using that compound advantage to stay in front of Norris, keep those lap times running faster than the McLaren is.
Yeah, and so we'll see if they even get the opportunity to kind of get out of the DRS train and battle here towards the end, because Albon is really just keeping that pack pretty tight towards the back. And so we did end up with Magnussen and De Vries pitting again. Magnussen now way behind after going into that runoff from his teammate Hulkenberg. He's a good ways back. So in terms of that battle, that will be they ended up much closer together than they started, but at the same time, Hulkenberg has kind of put in a decent race. I think the strategy might have been not quite ideal for him to keep up after starting up there in P5. That's a tough to drop all the way back to 16.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna not feel great about that. Where your Saturday was wonderful. Took advantage of the rain X factor there, but not really able to convert on the race day. So that's gonna feel pretty tough for Hulk.
Yeah, and see what happened there with George.
Seems like
So
power loss, some type of mechanical thing.
So they're just having George box. They're having him retire the car. So
Sure. Yeah, I had a feeling that we may see that with an impact like they had over the course of the race. That could just get worse and worse. Mercedes obviously hoping to finish the race. They got Russell back in driving, got another 50 laps out of him. But unfortunately, it looks like they're gonna have to retire the car now. And to be fair, Russell did a great job even to recover that race. It's not like he was just dirtling around at the back of the pack. He was making overtakes and really making the best of his position. But we see the Mercedes of George Russell being wheeled into the garage, gonna diagnose those issues and just hope come back stronger for the next outing.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really big for the Ferrari squad and for Aston Martin. Aston Martin being behind in points, they were going to lose more points to Mercedes with Stroll being out of the points there, only having one car up there. So Mercedes were going to grow that gap with Fernando being ahead of Lewis. Aston Martin's going to reel that in, but also having the 4-5 for the Ferrari cars of Leclerc and Sainz, that's going to pick up points on both squads and close up that fight for 2, 3, 4 in the constructors a bit more, which is it makes it exciting. I don't think we don't have a big P1 constructors fight, but I'd love to see it get tight there for that P2 and see those constructors duke it out a little bit.
Well, yeah, and you were mentioning the 4-5 for Ferrari here. Seems like those positions are quite safe. Perez lapping significantly slower than Sainz ahead of him, so not really making moves in that regard. So yeah, it does seem like barring any catastrophes, it does seem like the Ferraris are pretty safe. I'm gonna take my water closet break here as well. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. And so we're seeing George chat with the pit wall, head back into the garage. But looking at the positions right now, we've got Verstappen P1, 7.5 seconds up on Alonso, 2 seconds up on Hamilton, with then Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Albon, Ocon, Bottas, and then now Norris rounding out the points. So pretty big for Lando to get that point position. He's hanging ahead of his teammate Piastri. It would be great to see both of them getting the points. I just don't think we'll get to see that happen. But yet again, we're looking at Alex Albon. He's hanging on to that P7. He does have the Alpine behind him, but he has done a great job of defending through the race so far. He's putting his car in the right positions. But we're also seeing now Lewis Hamilton putting in those lap times. He's gaining on Fernando Alonso, 1.6 seconds back. So we will have a fight for P2. We're going to see this continue to get fought out between the Williams of Albon and Esteban Ocon, Valtteri Bottas, Lando Norris behind. So a really competitive fight there for those last points positions. But yeah, we have Albon still hanging in there. But I think before long we'll switch the video, I imagine, to the Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso fight, which is now a 1.6 second gap.
Yeah, especially we're seeing Hamilton lapping about a tenth quicker. About a tenth quicker than Fernando Alonso. So give him a little bit of time, and he'll be able to shave that down. Especially if he's able to find some more time here. It is going to be coming very close to the wire, though. Looks like probably around lap, if that pace continues, probably looks like somewhere around lap 68, 69 is when we may see that kind of close down.
Yeah, and I think my only if we look at Max, my only question is how much pace does he have in those medium tires if he is going to go for that fastest lap. We saw him do it in Spain where he made a charge for that one lap towards the end of the race. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on that. But right now, Lewis really is just chasing down Fernando Alonso. Another very veteran podium that we're looking at with Max, Lewis, Alonso. That is quite the combination.
Yeah, and we heard previously over the weekend from Alonso, I believe, that they will not miss a podium from here on out
I
going
missed
into the
that.
rest of the year. I believe it was Fernando Alonso saying that about himself and his constructor Aston Martin. So massive, massive confidence coming in from this driver here, and it's just showing on the track. Honestly, Alonso putting in a great performance, gets overtaken by the Mercedes right in the opening stages of the race, loses that P2, but ends up being able to fight back. And we've seen the Aston Martin with so much pace over the course of the season. You definitely believe a driver when they say something like that, when they just have so much confidence coming into a weekend, not just in themselves, not just in the car, but in the team behind them as well. That's
Yeah.
just an overflowing cup, and Alonso really putting it to work. But Hamilton closing down that gap like we were talking about.
And for someone of Fernando Alonso's caliber of driver, I think it really does make more of a impact to hear him say it. Like you're hearing a guy that you know has driven. He is the most veteran driver on the circuit, and I think of all time at this point. I believe with number of laps driven and everything. I think he passed Kimi Räikkönen and all. So he's the most veteran driver in F1 history. His words carry a bit more weight. So unless barring any incidents and whatnot, I would imagine if he has that confidence, I kind of believe him. So
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It makes me think of it's gonna be a big tangent, but when you think of like a team leader, an in-game leader, if there is confidence being exuded by that individual, you're you're just going to be with them. Any call that they make, you're going to be 100% there. Because if to use Counter Strike, if your in-game leader is like fragging right now in the server, you're gonna be with every single call if he's on fire and lighting it up, and that's kind of the same vibe there from a driver like that. Veteran status, somebody like Lance Stroll's got to be looking at that and saying like, man, so we really can achieve something here. So actually, from that perspective, pretty disappointing from Lance not getting the points finish that we may have wanted, knowing that the car is capable of P2s.
yeah, and I mean it's what we've talked about it on the podcast. I mentioned it with the article I saw the other week about Aston Martin and their driver decisions. It's tough. Lance Stroll is by no means a bad driver, but he is just not quite able to do what Aston Martin would need in terms of performance to get a constructors championship. You do need two drivers performing well. It would be pretty unbelievable to have a single driver carry an entire team to a constructors championship. It's just really not that feasible. So definitely disappointing. I will say it was a weird weather weekend, and so that threw things all out of whack in terms of timing for qualifying and whatnot. But you really would hope that Lance would be in the points for the squad, especially with, like you said, Alonso up there in P2.
But we have seen Stroll overall improving his performance. So like in the long run, long game, grand scheme of things, we do see Stroll like improving, and this is just maybe like a not so great result in a string of decent performances. So not terrible, but like you were speaking about earlier, when the fight is so close, these points have to come in for these teams. Yeah, you want both your drivers. You want both your drivers right there. Um, Very similar to Ferrari, where on weekends where they haven't been able to hook it all up, we get a really good result and finish here, or at least position currently for a good finish.
Yeah, and the Ferraris kind of in a little bit of no man's land, but in a great P4, P5 right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's really about being able to put in, like, it's the consistency that's going to help in the Constructors' Championship, both from the team side and the driver's side. Consistently putting in good performances. I think Alonso's getting a lot more out of the Aston Martin than most drivers would on the grid. So it's not a knock to Stroll on that end, but knowing the ceiling for that car definitely makes it makes you look a little more critically at the second driver there, similar to Sergio Perez as well. I mean, he's sitting there in P6 right now. Not really. He's 10 seconds adrift of the Ferraris. And Lando, late lunge, and gets by Valtteri. Pick up another position. That was huge for Lando. Oh, the fight back. Lando hung onto the brakes a little longer and makes his way.
Just by a little bit too. You see the Alfa Romeo just braking, just
man, oh man,
super close. Now is that Stroll in the mix now too?
Yep, that brought Stroll back into it. So now we, if we can see Lando break the DRS to Valtteri, I think Valtteri is going to be in trouble a little bit to have Stroll. But it's so interesting. Like, after like 10, 15 laps of just being in this DRS train back to back to back, like what gave Lando that confidence to just send it into that corner? Like, that's pretty cool to see that he has, or just any of the drivers having the feel to be like, oh yeah, like, this is the lap, I'm in the range I want, I'm gonna just go for it and see what happens. Pretty impressive on his end, and he's just about to break the DRS to Valtteri.
Yeah, extended that gap to Valtteri. Right since the overtake, about 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. Try to get outside of that to make that move really stick. To not give Valtteri the opportunity to really come back at him. But yeah, it must have been maybe some kind of unforced error, a little bit offline. Maybe picked up some dust that gave him the advantage, and he was able to go for it.
Yeah. Max is just joking around. He bumped around on a couple curbs and is just joking around with his pit wall and everything. But sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
You're so in love, man. Max comes up on the radio. We gotta hear it.
Honestly, all the pit radios that pop up just really, they instantly like distract my attention and I lose track. It's happened across the board.
There is the element of them coming in like super quiet as well, so you're kind of like, you're like bending your ear to be able to hear it.
And also the pause from the broadcast, you're like, oh, something's gonna come up, and you're like, it definitely catches my attention and distracts me. But yeah, looking now, we've got Lewis. He's kind of lost some of that time he was picking up on Alonso. The medium tires possibly falling off a little bit. So Fernando Alonso having a good shot. Oh, and really deep from Lance Stroll on that.
Seems like we got a little bit of a lockup there on that front right.
Yeah, but
not terrible. A little bit though.
Yeah. But Alonso up there, it looks like he's gonna hang on to that P2. Lando Norris now he was a second and a half back. He's putting in some good lap times. He's gaining on Ocon. With the DRS train, he might be able to still pick up another place before the end of the race here. Lando is really driving hard with that McLaren to try and gain. He pulled a second out in the last little stint there.
Yeah, and it doesn't even seem like he has too much of a tire advantage either. Both on the same compound currently, same life in the tires as well. So
Oh,
just really utilizing the DRS when he can.
yeah, and so Lando came on the radio there saying that the rear wing of the Alpine is very loose.
Yeah, it's like shaking around.
Yeah, he's saying that it's very loose. He's concerned about the safety and if it falls off and hits someone. That is
Oh,
honestly pretty sketchy.
yeah, that doesn't seem like normal like bounce. And it's very independent. It's not like the whole car kind of going with that bounce. It looks like it's shaking independently on the back of that structure.
And
I'm curious. So go ahead. Go
oh,
ahead.
I was gonna say that is a massive piece of a car that if it falls off would be super concerning.
Right. And do those have Lando checking the inside? Those don't have the tie downs like the tires do, correct? So that would just
Not that I'm
go.
aware of. I think it would just go. But if it's
Right.
not secured properly, that's a massive piece of carbon fiber that's going to be flying backwards on the track. That's
Mm-hmm.
a bit scary. And with 3 laps to go, it's like I mean, obviously Lando wants to make up the positions, but that actually is like concerning looking. Not as yeah, that's a little sketchy, but it sounds like Max is sending it for the fastest lap potentially, so we'll see as he comes through. He put in a really good middle sector there. Um, but Lando, I think even with or maybe due to Ocon's issue with the rear wing, he may still be able to pick up this position. But Alex Albon, 2 laps to go, hanging on to P7. Massive performance from Alex. I'm pumped. And Sergio Perez pitting for potentially going for the fastest lap.
Yeah, because he's got a massive window to Albon. He'll be able to keep that same position.
Yeah.
What is it when drivers are called in for an unsafe piece of their equipment? That's a black and
Uh,
white flag that they wave.
Black and orange.
Black and orange
Black
flag.
and white would be for an incident related to um, track violation, like going outside of the track boundaries and things. That's the black and white.
Roger that. And you were correct. Sergio Perez into the pits for the softs, going for the fastest lap here.
Yeah, and so Max on the final lap, we'll see. We'll see if he can put in a fast. I have a feeling he's going to try and go for it here. It would be pretty wild to see if he can hang on to it with the medium old tires over Perez on the softs. Very unlikely. I think we'll
Mm-hmm.
expect Perez to pick up that extra point here with the fastest lap here at the end.
He's gonna go for it though. Try and maximize the weekend. Wouldn't be a grand slam because I think you got to top all the sessions, but that'd be a great result. We see Sergio Perez go purple in the first sector. I think this may be maybe out of reach for Max.
Yeah,
Sergio's going to be able to scoop
most
up
likely.
something at
I
least.
mean, it makes sense, but
Of course.
we'll
Purple in
probably
sector 2 for
see.
Sergio.
Yeah, we'll see Max get the fastest lap here as he crosses the finish line, ties Ayrton Senna in terms of race wins. But then we'll see that it sounds like quickly be taken back from by Sergio Perez. So, oh, didn't even pick up the fastest lap there. So, but Senna
Yeah.
100th victory for Red Bull Racing, so big congratulations to them as a team. Fernando Alonso hangs on with Lewis coming quickly behind. The Ferraris really maximized the performance there, though. I'm very impressed. Made not the most phenomenal decisions in the qualifying session, but let's see if Lando can. He's trying to send it around the outside. Wow.
Nice try. Nice try.
Oh man, he really well, it'll be interesting. Oh, and Lando with the DRS. Lando gets past. Maybe. Oh, I don't know.
That's tough.
That is tough. And fastest lap for Sergio, but and Lance got into the points past Valtteri by 0.03 of a second. So Lance gets the point. Whoa. Holy
Damn, double
cow.
points finish for the Aston Martins, like we were talking about. That's crazy.
Oh, but Lando's penalty dropped into. I forgot about his 5-second penalty. Drops him out. So Valtteri gets a point. I would not be shocked, though, to see Ocon get a penalty. That looked pretty concerning with the... but they didn't give him the black and orange flag, so maybe not. But that was pretty concerning with the rear wing there. So we'll see if there's any other changes. If a penalty comes out, Piastri will slide into the points there, and Ocon will probably end up back with Pierre in like P11, P12. But, man, great drive from Alex Albon. Great Ferrari kind of finish with, I think, especially picking up the points. And props to Lance to get in right at the end there. That was a slick little finish.
Yeah, I think that was a really fun Canadian Grand Prix. We saw a bunch of different tire strategies, early safety car, kind of shake things up a little bit. Saw drivers able to, recover some qualifying, recover some early mistakes. So yeah, I think overall this was a really fun race. Interesting podium. We've got Mercedes back on the podium with Lewis. Unfortunate George had to retire, but I think good on the team for getting him back out there as quick as they did, getting him back in the race, at least giving it a go. But yeah, this has been a fun one. Happy nothing crazy went down. It was all just up to the drivers what they could do with the package that they had.
Yeah, solid performances from a lot of drivers. I'm excited to break it down a little bit more later this week. But that is another tall and short of it race companion. Our P1 Max Verstappen, P2 Fernando Alonso, and P3 wrapping out the podium Lewis Hamilton. Thanks for being with us for it. Check us out on YouTube, and I'm sure we'll tweet it out here on Tall and Short of It, which is at Tall and Short of 1 on Twitter, the number 1. But thanks for checking out the race companion with us this week.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Check out the pod on Thursdays every week. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you listening. Thank you so much for your time. Peace out, everyone.
See ya.